Welcome to Scale Model Basics. I'm Aaron Skinner. Photo-etched metal is a fact of our modern modeling lives. Not only is there a ton of aftermarket PE detail sets available, but there's also photo-etched metal detail sets in a lot of the kits we already buy. So as such, here are 8 tips and tricks to deal with photo-etched metal that I've picked up in my life. First, before you even start cutting parts from the frets, it's a good idea to clean the frets with some lacquer thinner. That removes any residue from the etching process. So I'm just going to take some lacquer thinner on a cotton swab and just wipe down the parts. Make sure you clean both sides. This step isn't absolutely essential, but it's not a bad idea. Second, when you get ready to remove parts from the fret, there are those people, Tim Kidwell, who like using these photo-etched metal scissor things from Xuron, and they're fine, but I'm not a huge fan because I don't think that they have as much control as I'd like, and I think sometimes they can twist the part, particularly fine parts. I prefer a good old-fashioned number 10 blade because I can rock it back and forth. I've got a nice piece of masonite here. It's a good hard surface, and I'm just going to place the knife across and just rock it across the attachment point. It will come loose. Now, one of the things that can happen with photo etch, particularly small parts, this one did not go flying, but they can go whipping off into the stratosphere and feed the carpet monster. There are a couple of ways you can avoid that. One is take a good old-fashioned Post-it note, place it sticky side up, then place the section of the fret that has the parts you're going to remove onto that sticky section and press them lightly into place. Now I can take the knife and cut off the parts, and then the sticky stuff will hold it in place long enough for me to take a pair of tweezers and pick it up. Another way to stop parts going off into the ether is a Ziploc bag. You can slip the fret into the bag. You don't even have to necessarily seal it up because you're not going to be flying out that fast. And then, same thing as before, you just cut through the plastic and through the fret. And then, this bag's a little bigger than I needed it to be, but there's the part still in the bag. This is a great way if you have to remove multiple parts. You can do those all at once, like these hinges, and then they're all in the bag and ready to go when you get ready to glue them on. Thirdly, once you've got the parts off the fret, you still need to clean up the little bit of metal left from the fret and the attachment point. Use a metal file. This will not deform like a soft one can. It won't get torn up by the sharp metal edges. And then you just want to lightly sand along the edge, not across the edge, because that can damage the part. You don't have to press hard. You just have to stroke along that edge and it will come away clean. If the part you need to sand is particularly delicate, like this vent from a 350th scale ship, you want to hold it in a pair of smooth-jawed pliers, choke up on the area that needs to be sanded, and then take your file and do basically the same thing along the edge. But by doing that, you can prevent the part from being damaged as you're sanding. Fourth, it can be useful to help paint adhesion, especially on large parts, to take a fine sanding stick and just gently abrade the surface. You don't have to press hard, but what you're doing is giving this some texture, which will promote the paint adhering to the surface. There's nothing like having a nicely finished model and having paint chip off and expose bare brass. It will pop like nobody's business on that model.
Don't forget, you can subscribe to FineScale Modeler magazine, where you'll get 6 issues a year full of how-to stories from some of the best modelers around the world, and access to subscriber-only content on FineScale.com. Go to this link to subscribe and you'll get a special introductory offer for our YouTube viewers.
Fifth, how do you hold on to small photo-etched metal parts when you're moving them onto the model? You can use tweezers. It's sort of the go-to thing to do. But that can be a little bit hard, especially if you need to pick up a part, because you can drop it like that. Because you need to hold it tight enough to get it to the part and get it in position without bending it or having it fly off into the ether. I actually don't know where that went. So there is an alternative. You can make a simple pickup stick by putting a little blob of blue tack or poster putty onto the end of a toothpick. Doesn't need to be big. And that means that you can put your glue down where it needs to go. You can pick up the part, put it into the glue, give it a second for the glue to set, and then pull it away and you're good to go. The nice thing is this is pretty fine. That means you can get into some tighter spots than you might be able to get into with tweezers. Number 6, attaching photo etch metal parts. Now, super glue is usually the go-to for this. It will hold the parts. It's great for attaching those metal parts to plastic and resin or to other metal parts. But there are some alternatives. One, clear varnishes, either acrylic or enamel. All you need to do is loosen the lid, take a little clear varnish, paint it over the area that you want to apply the part, and then pick up the part, and then you can just move it into place and let that dry. This is perfect for photo etch metal parts that don't need a lot of physical strength in the joint, particularly these kind of surface things where they're going to get sealed by more paint. There's another alternative for attaching photo etch metal on plastic parts, and that is good old-fashioned liquid cement, the solvent kind we use for most of our modeling. You can brush it onto the place that the part is going to go, let that work its magic and soften the plastic. Once it's had a chance to do that a little bit, you can take the part, place it in there, and then push it into place. And as that solvent sets or dries, evaporates, the part will become anchored in there. Now again, you can strengthen that bond by flowing a little thin super glue on later. 7, if the photo etch part needs to be painted and bent, bend it first and paint it second. Bending those metal parts will cause the paint to flake off. Now this is actually a pre-colored part from Edward, but if I take my bendy tweezers here, you'll see that when I bend it, it causes that to crack and to start flaking off pretty readily. So, bend first, paint second. Which brings us to number 8, bending photo etch metal parts. Now, do you need all of the fancy bending tools that are out there? No, they can be useful, but if you're not doing a lot of photo etch metal, the biggest thing you need is a pair of smooth-jawed pliers. Place them against the edge and bend down. The smooth edges will not damage the metal. For longer bends, something as simple as a metal ruler and a single-edged razor blade works perfectly fine. Line your metal straight edge up along the fold, take the razor blade, put it up under the part, and then you can just pivot it up and you end up with a nice right angle turn. And you can move it again and same thing. And you can end up with some nice bends as simple as that. So those are some do's and don'ts that I've picked up along the way when working with photo etch metal. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.